We are starting webinar auto inserting connection elements for precast concrete in Revit. So we will talk about precast concrete and smart connection tools today. My name is Valens Balsevicius. I was structural engineer. Now I'm BIM application engineer in aga-cad. And we built BIM together with our clients. We built tools based on the experience of our users. So we try to reduce any stress you can have switching to BIM processes and so on. So this is all of our tools, what we have, what kind of add-ons for Revit. So some of the tools for MEP guys, some of the tools for structural, wood framing, metal framing, precast concrete. So different kind of tools available. And today we will talk about smart connections. It could be purchased as a separate tool, or it could be purchased as it's also part of a precast concrete. So if you have full package of precast concrete, you will have smart connections as well. We are industry partners with Autodesk in precast concrete. So we are authorized developers, and what we will cover in this webinar, so how to use our add-on smart connections, what elements could be used, what kind of families, how to create configurations, how to use sample project of smart connections to get you started, and then some examples how to use it. Yeah, and that's it. So we can switch to Revit window. This is sample project which you can download from our web page, from the help page. You will find different kind of connections placed here with smart connections tools, so like corbels, plates, grout tubes, for columns, for beams, for floors, different kind of stuff in this project. What you see on this screen as well, it's a tools for BIM doc. This is the tool which you can download and pick any of our solutions and have a trial for 2 weeks. So you see all the names here. We will use today smart connections, which is also part of precast concrete. So if I select precast concrete, you see it has different kind of tools inside, and precast and smart connections is one of them. So I can use all the commands from here, or I can also click on this one and it will show the tool on the ribbon. So I can just drag it from here, and all the commands available from here. Also, it has help page. If you'll click on this one, you'll see help page, the technical documentation and sample projects. So you can download this project. Almost everything will be available in that project. Just a little bit update I made for this particular webinar. So how does it work? How does this tool work? It has configurations where you can define what kind of connections, or basically Revit families, do you want to place on the host. So on the wall, on the beam, or somewhere else. Right, so let's open configuration window. You pick the category which you want to work with, and then you have here different kind of tabs. What kind of Revit families do you want to place? So this could be line-based families and point-based families. What are point-based and line-based families, I will explain a little bit later, but basically you select the family which you want to place. So it could be any family or element what you have in your model. So you need to have these elements in your model, and then you can define rules that it should be distributed in that direction, in other direction. So how basically these elements should be placed. Then you select the element which supposed to have these connection elements, and then I insert these connections on my wall, for example. Right, it will run through the geometry of my element, and it will place all these elements automatically. So now with one click, I have placed 37 structural connection category elements. So it's yeah, it helps to automate the stuff. And then it has commands to insert, modify, delete tools, insert gravity point, update them, and so on. A little bit about the families which you can use with this tool. So it's as I said, these are point-based families. So the point-based family means that I click once and it's inserted, right? So that's how I do that with Revit. I just pick the face, where do I want to place it, and I can drop it. The line-based family is is when you need to click twice, right? So then I have some kind of family, which is created already. So I click once and twice. So then I have this line-based element. And this could be solid or voids, right? So void in Revit, it can cut your host, your wall, or your beam, or how to say. So it could be just partial cut or full cut, like in this case, right? So yeah, so something like this to get you started. And let's try to create something. I'll delete these elements now. And to create point-based families, I would suggest to use family template, right? So I will create new family. And these are standard Revit templates for families. So this one just comes with a Revit, right? So you can use this one, face-based or generic model for the point-based elements. So this one or this one. But this one should be work plane-based. Usually it's most comfortable to use this one. So it sticks to any face of your host or beam or wall, and it's also just is hosted on the wall or beam. So here you can build your void, cut, or solid element. So with these commands, right? So I pick extrusion, for example, and I say that I want to have it this size. Maybe I want to move it a little bit like this, and maybe a little bit to upper side as well. So this will be like rectangular, and insert point is this intersection of reference planes. I will also reduce the size of it. Also, it's a good practice if you have any solid in your family, like I have now this little cube. So you can add material to it. So I use some parameters which I already have, so like material, and then later on in the project I will be able to assign this material. I also use some structural connection category, seems to be pretty logical for this. And yeah, then you can save your family somewhere and start using with your project, right? So I'm gonna save it here in the families and just name it somehow. All right, that's the way. And then we will load this one and start using it with Smart Connections tools. So let's load it into the project, and then you can just click here on the faces as I showed previously with point-based elements. So let's go and create configuration instead of placing this manually. So configuration window, I want to place this on the wall, so I choose this one, and then I say create new configuration, rename it, call it somehow one of my configurations, which I will use. And now because this is point-based families, I can use these 3 tabs, right? So I go to one of them, and this is the side face of my wall. So I say I want to use this family. I can pick it from the list or from this family browser. It's under structural connection category, and I can find it probably here, just this one. Click on OK. And then where it should be placed, on the left side, on the right side of my wall. So I'll pick the side. I say I want to insert it, so it turns to green color. So it means I selected to insert, and I picked the family. And then direction where it should be placed. Some different kind of options here, but let's say if I leave these by default and just click on save. So what will happen is that when I select a couple of walls and I say I want to insert elements, and I want to use this configuration, right, the new one, I say insert. So what will happen is just that it will drop it in the center of my walls. So this is a simple example, right? So let's do modification and let's change something. So this is my element on the right side, but let's say I will say that it should be actually 2 elements. One should be with offset from the end and another one from the start. And I can also rotate it. I can limit the size of the walls when it will be inserted. I can use host filter, different kind of stuff. But but let's do it like this, just a fixed number, and then I will say like 2 of them in that direction. So I will save it and run the update. So we'll see that now I have this one just with the offset from that side and from that side, just what I have defined in my configurations. So that's again quite simple example, right? Let's do something in other direction. So from the start, it means basically you are looking in this image and then you see this will place element from the start and with some rules how it should be placed. So let's say 3 of them should be placed with some distance between of them, and also it should have some start offset. So for example 50 millimeters in this case. I'm using metric units today. So I will say save and run the update like this, right? So it's quite easy to place these elements, but what if I want to place them at the position of the wall? Well, I can do that, right, by saying that I can use many tabs here. So maybe in another tab, I can say that I want to place the same family, this one on the right side of the wall, and I want to place it at the center again, but maybe different kind of rule here. From start, let's say some 50 units with some step and some offset from the bottom. Right, and then okay, so if I'll do that update, so now I have these elements, but they are not exactly at my wall position and so on. So it's not really cool because now I need to calculate what should be the distance to that wall if I want to place at the position of the wall. But for that we have more smart options actually, right? So I have here additional options. So I can search for something. So I can search for intersection with other elements. I can search for nearby other connections and wall joints, for example. So this is the one I want. So now I will say that I want to look for the T connection of the walls. They should be disjoint. The searching distance should be, let's say, 300, right? And then I would like to place this element only if I have this kind of situation. So if I'll do that, what will happen that it will automatically find this position and place my element at the intersection with the wall. So you see, I can automate that quite easily. For example, if I will say that these should be updated elements, right? So I will update these to the latest configuration. You will see these get this wall, it gets only details at the with the offsets, but this one, it already has this element placed at the intersection of my wall. So again, I have different kind of options to do that. Here I can say left and right, the searching direction, and so on. So I can modify that and say on which part should this be. So again, different kind of stuff and automatization. Now, I can also place line-based elements, right? So for line-based elements, I should use family, which is generic model line-based family. All right, so what I have showed you here, these cubes, so it could be any shape, whatever you want. So that's just an example, but the idea and technology of a tool. So this is line-based family template where I will create some kind of element again. So maybe I want to have some cutout. So for that, I create void. It looks like this orange color. And what I will do, I will align the ends of this void and I will lock them to these reference planes so that all right, save it, save as family. I don't add any parameters here just to save some time, but you can work a little bit more on that and then get parametric family. So I will keep this as a generic model category, load it into the Smart Connections project. And then if I do that with Revit, I just draw it like this, and then I need to cut it with a tool like that. Oops, sorry. Before that, to be able to cut with a void, you need to select this one, and then you can load this one into a project. All right. And now it should be possible to cut it manually like this, and then I have a cut in my wall, right? So this is one of the ways, but we will use Smart Connections again. So I will go to configurations, and then I will say that I want to have another configuration and rename it and call it somehow line-based cut. I will say that, and now I can use any of these options, right? So it depends where do I want to place this line-based element. It could be on the side face, on the end face, vertical, horizontal, and so on. In this case, I will place it just in the top, and then I will say that this is the one, the family which I want to place, and I want to place it on the top, and it should go from the start to the end of my wall. Just one element, so fixed numbers, so one element from start to the end. I will not use any offsets, and in other direction it will be just in the center. So imagine this is the top face of my wall, right? The image represents the top face of my wall. So I'm gonna save it and say, I think that's it. Oh, I should actually cut the geometry, right? I have different kind of flipping options, rotation, and so on. So let's try to do that, and then we can select the elements where do we want to apply that configuration. So on any element you can apply more than one configuration, so that's what I do now. I just apply this cut only for selected walls, not for all walls, but for selected walls. So these guys, they don't have that cut at the top, right? So I can do that, and because these are line-based element cuts, you can easily drag them and change the position if needed. Depends on situation, or you can modify them anytime through that configuration and make some changes. Also, the good thing about line-based elements that you can have count of them. You can have length value, and you can have that in your schedules. So if that's a solid, maybe you want to have the length of it, the quantities, the count, and so on. So now what I did here, I have created families, right? But another option would be to use already families what you have, or the families provided by manufacturers. So for example, I have installed free add-in, which is called ProdLib. I found it in the manufacturer webpage. So actually it's I have two manufacturers for precast concrete, which is quite popular in Europe. So if I click on one of them, they provide the families of the elements what they have. So you don't need to create them. You can start using it with our tools straight just from here, right? So for example, walls, connectors, I will use this one. And I have different kind of sizes of the elements, what they have, what they provide. So they provide 2016 Revit library, but the Revit will update this to current version, what I use. And then I can just simply select this one. And you see I already, oops, I'm gonna close down this one. I don't need this anymore. All right, so I just placed it like this, but it means that actually I can select my previous configuration, and then I will say that actually I don't want to use this family which I have created because it doesn't really look nice. Not actual thing what I want to use. So I'll pick that one which I have downloaded and update, and that's how it's gonna be. Right, so now it's just placed these loops onto the face of my wall. Okay, so the top one's not really nice because now it finds the new face, so it's not in a good position. But basically, I can do that, right? If I will work it out a little bit more, I will change my configurations to look better, right? So I can place this kind of void, then I can place this loop if I want to, right? And I can get different kind of connections for my walls, and it will automatically find the corners situation, the end situation, and the intersection with another wall situation, and everything depends on the families which I would like to use. So a couple of simple things what I have showed you, but we can do a little bit more here. Maybe one more example I'm going to show you. But before that, I would like to tell you about this project, the sample project. So if you will download the sample project, what you can do is that you can actually select any of these elements and click on modify, and you will see all the configurations, all the settings. So you'll see this one is placed on the top of my structural framing element. It's on the top. It's with some rules that it has some offset from the start of the face, and then 10 of these with a distance between them like that. They are just distributed along my structural framing element. And you'll see another tab for the plates, another one for the plate, another one for the plate. So just to place these elements. And what you can do, you can actually save this configuration to your computer, and then you can select these empty, for example, elements, right, and just insert this by using this configuration. Right, so I just placed these elements. So now, or you can change these into the families what you have, right? For example, I have maybe some kind of other family, maybe this one, and then I can just simply update or change the configuration, right? So now I have this one, which is somehow flipped. All right, so maybe, why did I have this on? I can turn this off and just flip it, right? So I can just simply, like that, modify something. And if I will draw a couple of elements here, so structure, beam, and I will show you a little bit. All right, so let's change the end offset here from the wall. Oops, it's not from the wall. Sorry about that. Let's just move this one a little bit, like 100. Okay, so it was from the cut actually, but not a big deal. But we will just copy another one. I think it's 2.5 meter width. All right, so that's the way. Maybe I'm just gonna move them down a little bit by 1.5 meter. I think it will be just somewhere at the position of the wall. So how this tool can help is also that it also can depend sometimes on the workflow. So for example, what I will do, first of all, I will place details on these elements, right? So I use that configuration which I saved from them. So I place these plates and so on. And now I would like to have something on my wall at the position of this plate. How to do that? The name of the plate, you see it's plate family, and the name of the plate is 100 by 200 by 20. So what I will do, I'll go back to my wall configuration, modify. What I want to do is that I want to place family, actually, so what I want to do, okay, connections, here, weld them, this is the plate I want to use, provided by manufacturer. Okay, so I want to place this plate on the side of the wall, but I don't want to define position. I don't want to think about where should it be placed every time, right? So so what I will do, I will say I want to search for other connections, and I want to search for that plate, which is, this is the name, the one I placed on the beam, and I want to search to the left and right direction from my wall, and the searching distance could be a little bit less if needed. I don't know, it doesn't really matter too much. So this one, and then this is it. So I'm gonna save and update this configuration. So what will happen is that now I have these 4 plates placed automatically just at the position of those plates. So you see they are placed in the center of this one. So in this way I can do different kind of stuff again, as you see over here. So I had another configuration, so I placed the plate over here, I placed the corbel over here, so automatically, right? And then if they are somehow with the angle, so it's also pretty good to do that, to catch these situations. The same for columns. For example, I place corbels, but if you will click on corbel and click on modify, you will see that I'm actually searching for column and framing joints. So if I have joint with a beam, I will place corbel. If I don't have, the corbel will not be placed. So that's why I have these, just the 2 corbels. Here I have 3 corbels, right? So that's the way it can work. So yeah, in this project you can find different kind of examples. Maybe show you the walls, for example, how many different kind of stuff you can do. So for example, these are just okay, let's do it like this. Maybe let's show all the elements. So this is solid wall with some loops, this kind of loops, right? Here I have different kind of loops. Then I have sandwich walls, where I was using this kind of cut families to get the shape of my joint, and then shape in the corner the same way. So I get this kind of shape for the sandwich wall connection. Then I have here another example with walls over here. So I have a wall with some windows, right? These walls are just overlapping like that, and then by using smart connections, I'm placing a couple of families here. So one family is cutting my wall end, and another one is just cutting, but at the same time it's placing some concrete element and is joining together with the wall. So I get this kind of nice shape, right, with a connection of the wall. And in another corner, the same situation, I just placed some family for the insulation and some family for the concrete. The other end must be straight, so that's why you cannot use just simple warping or something like that in this kind of situation. So that's another example, right? And then if I'll take a look to the section, I have here also some concrete at the bottom, so it's just covering this area as well. So if I have this kind of stuff, right? So I just placed a couple of plates near the columns, then some concrete at the bottom, concrete at the corners, and so on. Another example would be these walls. So if I'm going to just place something for these, let's take a look. So it's running through the all walls and just analyzing the geometry. So different kind of joints between the walls. Bottom grout tubes, some line-based elements with some ferrules over here the same way. Now one of the things you can do is that you can have some multiple plates in one connection, right? So this one, for example, it has plate inside another one, so that's nested family. So you have a couple of elements in the same place, or it could be like a separate element. It's up to you how you will place that, what are your workflows. Here I have them in the same position, but it could be also as a one family if you want to. So it's up to you, right? So one of the examples. Then other walls over here, yeah, these are like I was using line-based families to to cut the top of the wall, then to place this kind of solid to get this kind of connection, or at the bottom I want to have this one, or at the ends I want to have I want to cut them in this kind of shape. So that's just that's the way you build your families. Basically, you can get, you see, these are quite really fancy shapes, so hard to say. It's not very typical for you, right? So you can just draw what should be there simply by defining the lines, the sizes, and then just use it with our tool. So it's really good thing that you are not restricted to anything here in Revit, right? This kind of phase-based families, which is just cutting the wall. Then another one example I was building up last week and having discussion with LinkedIn members. So this is also Shiplap joint, so I can place this kind of voids. You can do that with Revit profile as well, but sometimes maybe you'll need to move something, to change something, or maybe you need some quantity. So in that case, line-based elements would be better than just having profiles or sweeps inside the system, inside the wall family. So that's probably the reason. Okay, another one. So we have joists here, big wall element over here, so it could be a tilt-up panel. So I'm placing just a couple of elements in the corners. So it could be, again, any shape. It could be my cube. It could be some kind of channel or whatever. And I have used these elements on the sides. Let's say I have other walls over here. Then I automatically track the position of my joists. If I have another joist over here, and I will just run update, right? Update of my elements. So it's just gonna create this one additional, because now I have additional joist here, and I have a line-based element on the top, for example. So now I can have quantities of this element, right? Because this is line-based element. I made this as a structural connection category, so I have created schedule, and I can have a number of these elements in my project, right? I see the lengths, I see the volume, and so on. So that's why maybe it's sometimes better than using just simple wall sweeps. Talking about workflows, yeah, it's quite important, because for example, if I'll insert some connections to this wall, to this column, so you'll see what happened now is that I have only this one at the bottom. Okay, so I placed actually void here, some voids over here. But if I would place, first of all, to these elements something, like I have some configurations for these walls, like a Spandrel walls. Right, so I have some plates, I have some reveals over here. So just going vertically and horizontally for my panel, and I have these plates. So now if I will update connections for the column, you will see why is it important, the workflow. So you see now these are automatically placed, because they are placed only in the position of these plates. So I was using the previous method that I was searching for connections, right? So I place this one only if I find this one. So again, a lot depends on that. And yeah, just a couple of more examples maybe over here. So let's, or I will choose less of these, so it will be a little bit quicker. So just 8 elements, run through them and place based on my configurations, right? So a couple of these, good. So I have something in my structural framing elements, just placed at the stem and on the sides. And then let's do that for the walls. Okay, and auto insert. So what will happen is just that it will also place some corbels at the position of my, basically again, almost like at the position of structural framing elements. Some elements at the bottom of my wall, and these are like again nested families, so they come together with this one. And if I'll do that for foundation now, oops, sorry, let's insert and use one of the configurations. Let's see, where do I have it? Not assigned, I think. Where do I have it? Or do I have it? Plate on foundation. This one should be working. So the configuration, okay. So the configuration says that this one should be placed only at the position of these elements. And you can place them with smart connections, but anytime you can move them, you can add additional one if needed. I'm just going to modify, and I will say that I want to have, instead of 2 elements, maybe I want to have actually some 3 elements in just in this panel, so I can just really update this one. Right, so oops, wrong one. So I forgot that I need to probably rotate these in the same way as the previous ones. Or is that correct? Yeah, that's the way. But then I update this one, so it should follow the position of these now. You see the update happens. So one new created and others were moved in new positions. So that's the way you can do that. And it could be used in different kind of stuff. So for these guys, I placed these with smart connections as well, and so on. Different kind of stuff. All right, I think there are some questions. So there are questions if other companies are using this tool. So yeah, we have companies in Australia and Europe, in United States, and in Middle East. So I mean, basically these are our main clients. So this one is used together with smart connection, with precast concrete as well, because this one has automated shop drawings, it has renumbering elements, it has some reinforcement tools, and so on. So usually for precast we purchase all packaged, because you want to get the drawings, you want to have numbering and creating maybe some reinforcement and floors and splitting of walls and so on. All right, good. So thank you for joining this webinar. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our newsletters so that you would not miss next webinars. Have a good day, and bye-bye.
aga-cad, building BIM together.